What it do? As usual, let me know if I'm doing this right. If you can hear me, see me, all that good stuff. I think I figured out the sound problem that I had before, but we'll find out. Lima Charlie. That's awesome. So far, so good. Off to a good start. So what we're gonna do right off the beginning, because last time I started a stream, I never got to this, and I want to get to this, which is I'm gonna pull up some questions that you all had. Well, I guess they weren't questions. They were ideas for a live. And instead of just doing one idea, just go over all the questions, because there's just no way I can do a live over every single one of these things. And they're pretty good, actually. So I posted I made a post and I asked, what are some good, live discussions topics? We're going to go through them all because they're all pretty good. So, first off, well, let me check the chat real quick. It says, stream is healthy. Why does it say unlisted? Let's see. Oh, that's what I need to do. Give me a second. I need to make this public. Because that would kind of be pointless if it wasn't public. Done. Save. All right. Now we're public, I believe. Oh, Lord Almighty. I know, guys, I was talking to my wife, so I had my thing off. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's not a malfunction yet. We're going to get there. So, we're good. We're still good. We have not screwed this up yet. I know it looked like it, but I was trying to make sure that my wife could see the stream on her phone and that it was public. So, we're good. I appreciate it. The prepared father. Wait a second. We have the prepared father. What's up, by the way? We have Dead Prepper, and we have the prepared father and Dead Prepper. What if you were like father and son? You know? The father's prepared, the son apparently is dead, but he's not dead because he's alive and he's chatting. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a warm-up, kind of. I'm locked in. Usually OBS gives me a hard time. Man, I'm still figuring this thing out, honestly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, that's funny. Let me know. Yeah, my wife is behind. Anyways, guys, while you're in here, there's 11 of you. Let's get some more likes going. But anyways, I'm gonna hop in this question I was talking about before. If you guys weren't here yet. I had asked in the post about get milk. That's funny. I asked in a post if the community or the subscribers had any questions that they or topics they wanted me to do a live over, and I got a bunch of responses. It's been a while since I asked that, and I wanted to touch on these last time, but we started talking, and sometimes I do that, and I just never got to them. So we're going to start with that so that we do get through them. So the question or topic somebody posted was, CQB went outside of a complex and trying to get in, like within 150 yards of a complex. So, I mean, what he's asking about or what he's talking about is, you know, fighting to get to a location. So fighting to get into a trench, fighting to get into a building, a courtyard, a compound, or anything like that. I mean, and then essentially what you land on is just like military formations and firing and maneuver. And one of the things that you guys have seen probably in my videos is, and if I don't know, maybe you know, not all of you are trained in the military, but there's a lot of things that you're trained that in practice are applicable and what you try to do, but it just like almost never happens. Like kind of becomes a gaggle. You got 5 guys that are right next to each other, but they're supposed to be spread out because we try to keep 15 meters between each other in case there's a drone or a mortar or a grenade. It doesn't get everybody. So those are really easy. You can go, you know, YouTube those or Google those military formations, and you're going to see like, you know, basically it's going to be like, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, with space in between each one of you, right? But you can't really do that if you have a, I would say IED threat or mines, right? Because the likelihood of somebody stepping on a mine, if you are doing a military formation to move towards a position, is higher because every single person is stepping in a new spot. So, you know, what you see oftentimes is like a ranger file. I think I go over it on the video that's going to be posted tomorrow. And a ranger file is a straight line. But the problem with the ranger file is that it doesn't afford you any firepower, really, right? In either direction. Well, I guess it could technically to the left and to the right, because if you're walking in a straight line to get to a place or a position, you know, you could turn to the left or the right and you could fire that direction, but you can't do that directly to the front. So, man, you got to hope that you have combined arms and you have things working to your advantage, so that it affords you the opportunity to get to what would be considered relatively a safer location, which is closer to where you're trying to be. So inside the trench, inside the compound, or close to it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that kind of answers that question, which was CQB when just outside of a complex and trying to get in. And by the way, if you just Google what CQB is, you can read the definition, and it's the definition says, you know, typically anything within 100 yards, right? So it's like subjective or objective, or however you want to look at it. But a lot of people, you know, I go off on this rant, but a lot of people think that CQB is one thing, which is what the modern CQB principles, like everybody's come to know, which is like 4 or 5 guys with rifles stacking up on a building and going room to room. So when I post videos and I say like CQB in the forest or CQB here, you know, people like to lose their minds about it, which is fine with me, you know, helps out the channel. But they don't realize that that is also considered close quarters battle, right? Don't forget to give that like button a smash. That's very awesome of you. My height and weight is 5. I'm going to say 5'6". And 150-ish, 150, 155 maybe right now. Let's see. Hey boys, oh, I already read that. Recently found your channel and it's helping me drill a lot of good training aspects in my routine from regularly silly civilian like me. Thank you. Well, that's awesome. I'm going to repeat myself. If you've been here, you know, this isn't your first time. I've always kind of tended to gravitate and lean towards like what makes the most sense. And kind of the issue with that is it doesn't seem like YouTube really cares about that, right? Because YouTube, yeah, I cranked it up, Devin or Kevin. So hopefully, I knew you'd come in here, but hopefully it's good. You know, you could do really well on YouTube if you can tell a story and you can entertain. Like, it doesn't have to be you. I mean, there's a, and I don't like hate, I don't have like bad blood towards anybody, but you know, there's like a YouTube channel or even a couple channels. Well, let's say one, for example, where the individual, nobody, I don't think anybody, he never appears, right? So it's a faceless channel. He tells military stories and I don't know, try not to drop people's channels in my chat, but it's cool if you do, I guess. But he tells military stories and he uses whatever photos he can find or videos from anything, right, to tell the story. And I've read through some of the comments and people, it doesn't matter. Like if people don't like it, well then you shouldn't watch it and you shouldn't comment on it because you're promoting it by doing so. But he does really well, or the channel does really well, you know. I think that, you know, some of these other channels too, you know, one of the channels that, you know, some people, I guess, like or whatever, and some people have a hard time with is active self-protection, which somebody has mentioned on here before. And I don't know, you know, you just look at the channel, like, again, no disrespect. But like, you know, I don't know what makes that channel so special, right? So I don't even know why I started talking about that, but I don't know. I started giving you guys tips on starting a YouTube channel. Oh, and I read something I think that made me talk about that. Oh yeah, okay. So someone was like complimenting the channel. So like I'm not, you know, very good at the storytelling thing. Trying to find a format that really works and people like and does well, and make good videos. You know. I've got some more stuff planned in the future that I think will be pretty good, but it's gonna be kind of similar in terms of like teaching and, you know, getting people to kind of consider certain things. There's a lot of stuff out there that it comes off as, I mean, I guess trying to be educational, but at the core of it, it's entertaining, and that's why people watch it. Because like nobody is gonna go buy a $3,000 drone and track their buddy in the forest, right? Like it is not going to happen. So, but again, I'm all for people doing their thing and being successful at their thing, and I want everybody to do well. But no, it wasn't Ballin, by the way. I actually found out who that was not that long ago. I don't watch a lot of YouTube. Haven't. If I do, it's like I'm looking for something, trying to research something, or find something to put in my own videos. Let's see here. Really like the operations room. It's animated and interesting. Is that a channel? Just hit the ability to edit. Oh, wait. Just his ability to edit videos and say good shit is somewhat true. That's somewhat true. Yeah. And honestly, like a lot of these people that have hundreds of thousands of views and millions of followers are not editing their own videos. I hope they're not. That would be silly. So, you know, and I hope not to do that either at some point. But the problem is, I don't know how I can, in the format in which I'm making these kind of educational videos, it's hard for me. Like, I feel like I still have to do a lot of the work because, you know, just to say, for example, you know, the video that's I have that's kind of doing well, the IDF CQB combat video. You know, like I have to source out things and go find things. I can't be like, hey, here at this point. Well, if I'm telling people this, like, hey, here at this point, find drone footage of the IDF flying in and put it right here, right? Or after I say this, then cut to them, you know, doing combined arms in the street. And at the point in which I'm telling somebody how to do all this stuff, I might as well just do it myself. So, But hopefully, you know, that'd be cool to have a partner that knows and can do it well, and I don't have to really worry about it. Ballin is a G. Didn't know he was a Navy SEAL for the longest time. Yeah, I don't know if you know his story or not. And he, if you don't know, and he was on the Sean Ryan show, which I think is where I heard the story, right? It's kind of funny because what he basically says is he did like the minimum amount of time in the SEALs, which doesn't mean anything to me, you know. But you know, in that culture, it's like, well, how many deployments did you do? Oh, well, you only went here. Oh, well, you when you were in, you only saw this. Whatever, like that's what they do, right? It's pretty silly. They they brainwash people, every organization, to think that they're better than everybody else. And then when people like leave, they can't they don't get that out of their head, like, so they carry that same mentality forward. But he basically says he did the minimum amount of time, he got out, he was working with like a, I don't want to say like a nonprofit, but he had contacts like most of them do. Most of them get started in doing what they're doing because they know people, which is also fine, you know. But he basically says that he started an Instagram, and his Instagram was very Navy SEAL focused. And on his Instagram, he told stories. And he told stories about the things that he did or that he was involved in. But the funny thing about him telling this, and you guys can go watch this on the Sean Ryan show, is he basically says something to the extent of, and I'm not quoting, he basically says, yeah, I told stories and I did embellish, but it's not like it didn't happen or something like that, right? He's basically saying he didn't tell the complete truth, essentially, is what it sounds like. But basically what happened was other Navy SEAL people, and he references somebody who he got into an engagement with and rounds were landing all around them, you know, came after him and attacked him and told him he was a liar and he was telling stories that weren't true. And that's why he doesn't, and I think he says he still has some Navy SEAL stuff on his Instagram, but mostly it's all the kind of stuff that he's doing now. And, you know, he basically started doing what he's doing now, which is like telling stories. So it's interesting. Let's see. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't want to be, you said there's room for a new Paul Harrell, and I don't know if that's me or you're referencing that. And I think, like, because I still have a full-time job and I can't, you know, I have 4 kids and a family and all these other things going on that is not this as my primary focus, even though I kind of treat it that way, is I can only spend so much time doing certain things. And in the process, like, quality kind of does get sacrificed, unfortunately. And I'm only so capable, and I'm only, you know, I can only spend so much time on a particular topic or a particular thing. And so, like, one of the things that I'm never really cared all that much about is, you know, like guns, like the very not detailed, not the word I'm looking for, but specifications on weapons, or just like optics and this and that. I mean, I don't need to know that my rifle is max range is 300 or 3,600 meters or whatever, right? I'm just making that up. But stuff like that, I've always, throughout the course of my life, and especially in the military, boiled down like what I was being taught or told to what I needed to know, right? Because I don't want to even try to compartmentalize in my head irrelevant information. And so to me, that most of that stuff is irrelevant information, is it not, right? I mean, the twist rate of your rifle. I mean, are you buying an LWRC? Are you buying a Novetzke? Are you buying a Daniel Defense? Well, and what are you using it for, right? So, like, it's just kind of, to me, it's irrelevant, but to a lot of people, it means something, right? And people like that stuff. And so I think even when you see me start talking about some of these things that are maybe gear related or, you know, weapons related, optic related, or whatever, I'm still going to maintain that same practical like talk about it, right? I'm not going to try to get technical about something I'm not technical about. I'm going to give you that kind of basic, what you need to know and think about, understanding behind the thing, right? And so actually, it might be one of my next videos. It's going to be, or coming up at some point, I'm going to do a video about my rifle light, and I'm not going to give away what it's about because I don't want to say, but I think it'll be cool video. So AI will soon, but to the Paul Harrell thing, I don't want to be like anybody, you know. In my, you know, I have a project that I want to work on in probably starting the middle of next year, because I try not to do this job that I'm doing right now forever, and to do that thing that I want to do, can't be a cop. So that's gonna be cool and fun, and I'm really like pumped about it, and I think it'll be good, like especially for YouTube. One, because nobody's doing it, and two, going to be doing something good for innocent people or the public, basically, and that channel will have no reason to be screwed with really by YouTube in the future. So, you know, right now this channel, I mean, YouTube can create a policy tomorrow and say, if you have guns on your channel at all, then you're not capable to monetize. So they do that, and that's happened before, not to that degree, but similarly. And I want to diversify and be safe about the content creating stuff. So no, you can use my videos in shorts, but I think you can remix it. You guys know the answer to that. I think if you go to like the YouTube video or even the short, if you want to reuse it, you just remix it, I think. And that way I still get credit for it. Because otherwise there's no real good way to like tag and link it back to my channel. Operation angle, it can be entertaining itself. Military ops, strategic level, animated bird's eye view, infantry, combined arms. Interesting. I'm always interested in anything that I can use to like, you know, make a video too and kind of demonstrate things. I think broadly we are extremely pleased with the work you already do. I'm simply saying the matter of fact, no bullshit. Oh, I swore. I think I can swear. But I don't want to get this restricted, so I shouldn't swear. Stuff is what we like about you. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I said this last time on a stream where, you know, people tend to like it, and I don't want to say I'm a perfectionist, but you got to make, you know, I just want to make good videos. And if the video isn't good, then I'm going backwards, and I don't want to go backwards. The gear stuff just hits my autism bone. See? Yeah. Knowledge is power. You've been empowering people with what you do. You're making a difference. Don't worry. I'm not worried. Can confirm. Remix is a thing. Mindset, tactical, skill, gear. John Marston. You bring up a good topic. So I'm gonna start back on these topics that I told you I was gonna get to, because we've only made it, I think, to the first one, which we got to get through them all. However, I have a video. It's currently only available to members, but you know, and I'll probably make it available to everybody at some point. I just have videos that are kind of in the queue and stuff that's done, and I had no really rhyme or reason on what video I'm releasing that week. But so I have that video. The video is, you know, the death of dynamic entries. They're dead, so you don't have to be, or something like that. I'm gonna make a similar video in the same way, where I'm just standing there talking, and I'll probably use body cams. I use body cams in the death of dynamic entry video. I'm gonna make a similar video, and it's going to be about tactics, because one of the things that I see, and I'll just briefly, hit a couple bullet points because I could talk for hours about this. But anyways, so is why tactics are important, because there's this thing where people that can shoot really well, and I don't want to say the word practical shooters, but they're part of it, and other people that strongly believe in that, which is totally cool. I'm not saying I don't believe in it, but they, in the process of saying our thing is awesome and it's the best, and this is what everyone should do if you want to be good, they basically say, like, if you can't even compete in this skill set, then you shouldn't even worry about tactics, right? Now, first of all, we got to agree that we're talking about cops, right? Because otherwise, who cares? I mean, GWAT's over, and those who are employing tactics and marksmanship more often than anybody are police officers. So I assume that we're talking about cops, because some of the people that talk about it are cops too. And there's just so much information that completely verifies why tactics are probably more important, okay? One of those things is most cops die with their gun in the holster before they fire a round. It's like astronomically, your chances of survival are like 99% if you fire your gun at all, okay? And I had the numbers, I have them somewhere, but I did all the research. And that's just based on going, okay, well, of the cops I know who have been killed, which is like at least 3, all died before they fired a round. And none of them were ambushes. Okay, 2 of them were tactical errors. And I can tell you exactly what they did wrong and what they should have done. And if they'd probably be here right now. And so I was like, okay, well, this has to be a commonality. So I did the research and I found out, oh yeah, it is true. And I'm not talking about ambushes, right? So like, tactics get you to the point where marksmanship matters. And I can prove it to you. I mean, look at the video that I did with the female that was searching that house, right? Okay. Cops are going to shoot as much as their department makes them, probably, okay? Along the way, you might encourage a couple people to go push themselves hard and actually shoot, right? I don't shoot live fire like that much because I don't live where I can. I can't walk out of my house and go do it. There isn't an outdoor range anywhere in the vicinity of where I live. So I'd have to drive like an hour and a half, right? And I'm just not going to do it right now, right? But anyways, that female searching that house, when, I point out very clearly in that video what it was that she did wrong that could have cost her life. And if you look at similar videos, just go down the list, like, go to police activity, even though I don't like that page, but you can go there and you could just click on the videos. Go on my Instagram, kinetic_concepts1, and look at one of the recent posts I made where, well, one officer's approaching this murder suspect with his gun in his holster. The other officer's, he has an opportunity to move to a position of cover and address the threat, but instead he moves into the open and he gets shot. So that stuff is constantly happening. Stuff like that, where we're putting ourselves in a position to react from a, oh crap, oh my gosh situation, to where we're not prepared. And then our marksmanship usually is failing right after that. But if I can make a video and I can tell and cops see it, because this is something they could reasonably do, which is a cop sees my video. I appreciate the comments, by the way. I'm going to try to read them here in a second. If you guys haven't liked this stream yet, you want to help me out, you could do that. That'd be cool. So there will be cops, and I get messages and things like that see something that I demonstrate. No, I never thought of that. Let me not do that anymore, right? The working doors stuff videos that I made. It's far more likely a cop will see that and not make that same mistake, and then they will take up shooting a lot. Okay, that's just the reality of things. And then another caveat to, like, okay, let's say that we have a problem, okay, and the problem is officers getting killed or seriously hurt. I don't know of one single instance where that's happened, and any person who has looked at it said the reason that this happened is because of marksmanship. No, it's usually never. I've never heard it. What is it usually? Well, we didn't have the right information. We got, dispatch didn't relay the call correctly over the radio. The officer, which the FBI, I posted this somewhere a while ago, but majority of officers that are killed from tactical errors, procedural errors. That's how they're killed. I mean, today, okay, had an officer show up to help me. Thanks, Kevin. Had an officer show up to help me. He got out of the car, his vest was undone, talking to this dude who didn't like me. He was yelling all these things, right? So, like, there's just so many reasons why tactics are so important and decision making is so important, and I would argue more important. And the other thing is like, even if you think that, let's just say, competition shooting is the answer to the problems in law enforcement, and that more officers will live because of it, who are you trying to convince that they need this training, that they're gonna, like, the department's not gonna pay for it. They're not gonna take them off the street. They're not gonna pay for their ammo, and they're not gonna do it either. And so maybe along the way you convince a person to do it or a couple people to do it, which is great. I think that you should. I don't think it's the answer or a honest, simple, or not simple, but a resolution to the problem of officers getting hurt. I don't think anything supports that that's the case. Is police marksmanship on the street 15 to 35% or 38% hit factor? Yeah, it is. Could that help? Sure, it could. But it's not going to save more officers' lives, more than likely. Like I said, if you go and look at the videos that are online where officers are getting shot, why are they getting shot? Like, my thing is, like, put yourself in a position to win. Tactics get you to the point where marksmanship matters. And if you can fire first and fire when you should fire, you're just, like, going to live. So that's my thing. That's why I don't talk about marksmanship or talk about the realities and things like that. And, like, some of the things you'll see in the future, more so about understanding that people are not paper targets, right? And so here's another thing to consider, right? Is in the video that I posted the short on my channel, actually one of the more recent ones. You see me shooting at these targets in this training environment. You should go back and watch that. And if you want to see the longer version, you can go at kinetic_concepts1 and listen to the pace at which I'm shooting at these targets, right? One of the proponents, and this is just my mentality on it, it's like, if we shot at targets a lot of the time as if they were unpredictable, meaning once I hit it the first time, he might not be there anymore, right? I've shown people on the ground in 0.3 seconds, in 0.4 seconds. I'm not talking about, he's here. I'm talking about he's here, and after the first round, he's already moving, and he's on the ground in 0.4 seconds and 0.3 seconds, which means he's not up here anymore, right? If you're aiming high A zone, it's immediately starts to move down. You can't adjust to it if you're pulling the trigger fast. You can't. Not possible. You can't see it happen. It takes you 0.35 to, or 0.3 to 0.35 seconds to see something, make a decision, move to it, and react. So one of the things that Jared Reston teaches in his marksmanship training is that shooting at a cadence of bang, is he still there? Bang, is he still there? Bang, is he still there? So go back and listen. And by the way, the targets that I'm shooting at in that video, I set them up so that if I hit it the first time, it might move and it might not. So, but I don't know that until I see it. So that's why it gets a second follow-up. And then if you pay attention to when I'm kind of going through the arcade section, that target is like right in front of me. It's like 4 feet, and I shoot it twice way quicker than I was when I was shooting at 15 yards, right? And that's because of proximity and being able to get away with it. Let's see here. Navy reservists, find your videos interesting. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it. Give it a watch. Okay, I already read that. Can I watch Prehistoric Emergencies Part 1? Yeah, if it's a video, is it a video on here? OODA loop is a tactic, but skill is how you perform the tactic. Yeah, everybody. So the thing about the OODA loop is they talk about it. Everybody knows what it is. They talk about it in class. Like, let's say department training: observe, orient, decide, and act. And they say if you can get here first, then there's a good chance that you're going to win. Have a desirable outcome. What they don't do is put you in a situation and say, in this situation, this is how you get through the OODA loop process faster than the opposition who is in this position. And that's what tactics is. So when I was doing a lot of vehicle takedowns, being in unmarked vehicles is, it's just an advantage. Knowing where the suspect is an advantage. Being able to execute the takedown when the conditions are right and in your favor, hopefully, is an advantage. So much so that if you're executing the tactic, the thing that I teach and talk about and train cops in unmarked vehicles, we just don't believe that we could possibly lose a lethal confrontation situation when those things are in our favor, which means, you saw the video where I'm propping the door open, right? So if I'm here in the V, because that's the first available opportunity for me to clear my muzzle, and I'm saying, police, get on the ground, or police, stay in the car, I'm here. Guess what? Well, at that point, if somebody wants to come out of the car with the weapon, it's going to not turn out well, okay? And that's where you want to be. Can't always do that because we're in marked cars. Can't always do that because we don't know what the situation is. We don't have all the information, but that's the goal. And OODA loop. People from Carolina Ballistics have made shorts from your vid. By the way, your vids are great. The way you analyze and dissect TTPs are awesome. Thanks for that. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I'll say this again. My audience are cops, and most cops see the stuff. I'd say 95% of them see it and go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Immediately, because they understand the job. They're living the life, and so it's completely irrelevant to me what anybody else thinks. So because it's just not. It doesn't. I don't want to say it's meaningless. It's just not as valuable as what the person doing the job thinks about it, and that's why a lot of cops, I have a chat group of SWAT guys from around the country, people in my inbox right now from my Instagram talking about cop stuff and, saying similar things like you're saying, thanks and all this stuff, because they know, they get it, they understand it. Well, yeah, okay, so let's analyze this. Crap skill can still get the job done if tactics are superior. Crap tactics will see to it that your skill is never even a factor. So crap skill can still get the job done. Well, yeah, right? So I think we're comparing two things when you're saying that. We're talking about being in a position, let's just say, so crap skill can get the job done. So let's just say your marksmanship can be terrible, but if your tactics are good, you're going to have a desirable outcome. Well, yeah, that's 90%, by the way. You guys hear me saying 90, 95, 90. I don't actually know, okay? But preponderance of the time, cops are winning, meaning they're not dying or getting shot. But on the contrary, they're also missing a lot too. So sometimes it's a lot of times it's no skill and crap tactics too, just based on luck, based on the fact that when you're being shot at or a perpetrator is being shot at, that is probably going to discourage him from continuing to want to do what he's doing, whether he is being hit or not. Okay. So that answers that first part. Most of the time it's neither of those things. Crap tactics will see to it that your skill will never even be a factor. That's a great point right there. Exactly. I mean, so, you don't set up on the door correctly. Tactical decision making. Look at the video again. If you haven't seen it yet, I think it has like 90 some thousand views. It says the title is Cops Unbiased Review of Real World CQB, and it's Parish, Louisiana, or something like that. But it's crazy to me. I'm trying to reach not them in particular, but just guys like that, because that stuff's done, dude. Like you going inside of a house 30 seconds after announcing and trying to move quickly and no diversions happening. And I talk about that in this Death of Dynamic Entries video that I made, but they set up on that door. I mean, I explained in very good detail on how you would set up on that. But the only way that you can set up on that properly is if you take the time to look at it and make a decision. It's a fairy tale. Here's the thing. Oh, they'll shoot through the drywall. Well, they don't. They just don't. Okay. You can't find me 3 videos of a suspect intentionally shooting through drywall to try and hit anybody on the other side. Okay. You can find a whole lot of videos of suspects shooting through doors, of suspects shooting at the door, at the threshold when the door comes open. That's what they do. Because we know that's what they do, then we need to analyze and understand probabilities, likelihoods, and statistics and use those in our favor. Okay? So instead of rushing, not even really rushing, they weren't going that fast, and getting to the door, how that would have happened if we were running a warrant for that, this is what would have happened. We would have knocked on the door with a fire pole. We would have already had pre-designated positions of domination and an LCC. We would have called out lights and sirens like they did. We would have got people out of the house. We would have asked these people, which I don't think they did because I don't think they could have had time to do it. Is this person in there, right? And when you're asking them, are they in there? Sometimes they lie. But what they usually don't want to happen is for the cops to find them and something bad to happen to that person inside. So a lot of times, if they're lying, they'll still end up telling you that they're in there. And even if they don't say, yeah, he's in there, they're going to tell you based on their facial expressions, how they're acting. And eventually you're going to go, look, you're telling me that he's not in there, and I'm telling you that we're going to go in there, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to find him, and we don't want somebody to get hurt. And a lot of time they go, yeah, he's in there. Yeah, he's hiding in the closet. Yeah, he's in the attic. Yeah, he has a gun, right? This is all stuff you want to know before you actually go in there, because now if we know, yeah, he's in there, he said he was going to shoot out with the cops, guess what? We're not going in. Call the guys with the robots and the drones and the gas, okay? So that's what would have happened. But let's say, for example, the homeowner, whoever said, no, they're not in there. I'm not in there. Or I'm not saying anything. Okay, well, we have no confirmation. We just kind of assume, right? Like we always do. Let's go in there and start searching. We're doing a covert search. So the stuff that you saw me do with the pole, that's what we're doing. So, and everything's being done with the shield. So, I don't know the whole layout there, but, when you have a pole, you can open and close doors. I have another attachment that I'll probably make another video about where I can open a door from all the way down the hallway behind a shield with a knob, right? So there's options. And the best thing that you could do is open that door utilizing cover and or concealment, whatever you kind of have to your advantage. Maybe at that point, since we're looking at it and we're making a tactical decision, we bring up a shield and we set up on the shield at the corner of that hallway, looking into the room so that when the door comes open, what's he seeing? A shield, probably on the ground if you have a rifle. Maybe somebody over top of you, you can do a high-low, and then you have that other officer looking at that angle. You got 3 guns in a fight against 1. And, that officer was at a low ready, not even a low ready, but he was like looking above his sights with his gun angled down, waiting for the door to come open. And he still, what I would say, lost. I mean, he won in the end. 2 cops got shot, but he got shot. He didn't get rounds off before the bad guy. Why? Because we need to, positively identify and make a decision. Okay, I've tried to point this out in other videos, about the crossing the threshold with the rifle underneath your arm. That takes you time to do as somebody who is trying to, or at least has some liability, right? And you don't win that against somebody who's going like this with a gun looking at the threshold. right? And you don't, and especially if you're taking the room now, right? Yeah. So, anyways, that's that. Tactics. I like that, John Marston, about that, though. That was really good. Just lost a buddy a month ago. Simple, suspicious person at a car wash, broad daylight, went hands on, and out of the dude's butt cheeks, a pistol was pulled. All she wrote. I mean, there are situations too that are just an unfortunate, like no-win situations in a way. I mean, at some point you have to be where you have to be, and you're either assuming risk or you're taking unnecessary risk, and maybe you're just assuming risk because I had to grab a guy today and go to handcuff him. So at that point, I mean, I see every interaction, and I wish other people, well, a lot of people like you guys probably do, but when you're going to, I say fought a lot of people or whatever, but gone to detain people or arrest them, and they've resisted. Let's just say that. And especially when I'm by myself, that's an opportunity to do what I know needs to be done. And I feel like those situations are life or death, and they have never been for me. They've always been, just somebody trying to resist or somebody trying to get away, but you treat it like it is. And I was actually thinking about this today. Maybe it was in preparation for this, but procedural errors, right? Most cops, this is my experience, and maybe not the experience of everybody, don't really care all that much, and they're not trying to do really anything at all. And especially not trying to like put their hands on people, right? And I'm not saying like we want to do that, like we seek that out, but to the extent to where it's time to do it and we're just not doing it because we don't want to have to do the paperwork. And that's where cops just straight up get killed. I mean, procedural errors, right? Not taking the opportunity when it's presented to you, allowing things, there's this saying that I really like, but it's misunderstood, which is something to the extent of, depending on your skill level, however advanced your skill is will dictate the level at which you can allow a situation to degrade before taking action. And in order to like really understand what that means, you have to do a lot of training. And you have to do a lot of force on force training. Meaning you have to have made a similar decision many times in training to understand how far you're allowing the situation to degrade before taking action. But I think that terminology can get abused by people, and they can use that as an excuse for trying to make an excuse for low levels of competency or skill by saying, "Oh, I can just allow this thing to happen because, that's how good I am." When it's like, no, you're just allowing it to happen because you don't want to do paperwork. So you're allowing this guy to continuously approach the scene. You're allowing this guy to act aggressively. Or how about this? One thing I point out all the time, and this bothers the crap out of me. It's like, look, your taser or your CED is used as a less lethal option so that you don't have to use lethal force. I think I posted this on one of the Instagrams on the story the other day, but I mean, it makes zero sense to be an officer with a lethal option in your hand next to an officer with lethal coverage and wait until lethal force is authorized before engaging the person with less lethal. And it's crazy because these situations, it's like you're sitting there like, okay, now, you should have done it already. Like the dude's 10 feet away from you with a thing above his head like this, and we're just like, drop it. You're not waiting until the person charges you with the less lethal option to deploy it. You're doing it at a distance and hoping that he does not charge you. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good example of the opposite of allowing a situation to degrade. Well, they're allowing it to degrade, I guess, beyond their skill level. Let me see if I can catch up on these real quick. It's crazy to say that tactics are way more important, both in military, in my opinion, and law enforcement too. Too many dumb, crazy cops out there. That's the other point too, about tactics. Like, if you has there ever been a war or a battle won or lost because of marksmanship abilities? Or has it been because they made a strategic move and sent a bunch of people one direction and also had combined arms and arty and drones and tanks and all these things? You know, it's just a silly, it's just a very silly statement to make that I believe is made for the purposes of something other than the truth. I think it's made because they're smart people. I don't think they're not. I don't think they're dumb. I just think that maybe they're trying to kind of, in a way, you know, prop up the thing that they're good at so that it kind of makes them look good, I guess. But you can't. Anyways, when you see the video that I make on it, you'd be like, probably think like, okay, all this makes sense. Now, what's the argument why you think that is the most important thing and more important? And it always is not a very intelligently thought out argument with all these bullet points as to why, with statistics on times where, you know, because if you say, well, obviously marksmanship is more important because officers that have engaged suspects, you know, because it was like between 2010 and 2019, I think I did like 12,000 use of force incidents with lethal, you know, I assume rifle or pistol. And there was only 480 officers that were killed. So then someone would go, well, see, they use force, and obviously it's more important because they won. Well, then you also have to acknowledge the fact that those same officers made up for 15 to 30% hit factor. So it's an odd argument to make. I remember in my conscript service, we had a brief urban combat training and were taught the dumbest thing ever. We, I can't read, always the equivalent of the US Battle Drill 6. That's what got me to your channel. What is the Battle Drill 6? I've heard of it before. So 15 to 38% is the national average. Any officer trainer, and I've heard them, and they're full of crap. They're full of crap. I can pull up 5 of their last body cameras and tell you they're full of crap. Because what they'll do is they'll say, my program at this agency is awesome and all officers are succeeding doing my thing. It's like, okay, well, and they claim their numbers to be really high. It's just not true. If it's in a large department, it's just not true. I can pull up a photo right now, which I'm not going to show you, of, you know, 4 cops that shot up a car, you know, over 100 some rounds. The guy didn't have 100 some rounds in him, right? So it is 15 to 38%. Yes, it's under stress. Those are real shootings. So of course it's under stress. Yeah. Yeah, it's a national average. Fast splits make me feel warm and fuzzy. Man, I got a lot to say about that. But I'll kind of wait for another time. Nell, I think is the name. What's up? Bro, if you type on YouTube analog horror prehistoric or part 1. Okay, I'm gonna see if we can get to that. How often should cops practice live fire? For me, I need pistol recoil every 3 weeks at a minimum. I don't know the answer to that. But what I think that there needs to be and can be, this can happen. Just have to have people that are willing to do it. And I think there is a, you know, probably reason why they wouldn't want to find out that an alternative approach is actually better, right? So I teach, you know, I have 4 classes, but the 2 main ones, high-risk vehicle encounters, which is the vehicle stuff, and then exploiting accuracy. And if you don't know what that is, and if I think you go to my website, you could like click on it and read about it. But essentially what I do, and I've posted on the Instagram, I post my before, cops before my instruction, 30 minutes after my instruction, doing something under stress, and their hit factor going from 15 to 38% to 80 to 90%. Okay. And I don't talk about marksmanship ability. Okay. I will if I think that's the problem. But as it turns out, real simple is like cops don't find their sights under stress because their brain is forcing them to continue to focus on the threat. Okay. Which means, you know, there's this unconscious competence or whatever, like you've done it so many times that it's just there. Well, I would question, I mean, there are cops that think that too, but you really have to have been a cop or be a cop in these current situations. Think about the things that I'm telling you in the course and go out there and watch what happens, because you're going to get in these interactions with these guys that you've been getting these interactions with, these bad guys. And you're going to go through whole incidents where you claim that you pointed your gun, but realize you never even found your red dot, never found your sights. Okay. And I taught myself how to do this thing over time and kind of proved it in practice in a real life situation. And I prove it every time I have a class. So I think that there's a way that you could significantly increase. Here's the thing. I can't promise that cops will be better marksmen and will, for example, be able to hit a harder target than they normally would be able to. But I'm confident if they, you know, kind of go through the process and this thing is implemented on, you know, department wide, they will make decisions with gunfire that make sense, which means this. Okay. So like I've done a number of these videos where I've showed cops just trying to do something with gunfire that makes logically no sense, right? Which is what? Shoot a lot and shoot fast. Now, the reason that they're doing that is not because they consciously made this decision to do this thing and are, you know, don't normally train, you know, shooting fast, so they don't know what it's actually like. It's because the physiological responses of stress, right? So they're not finding their sights. So let's just put it this way. I know of an instance where an officer, this is an example I use, where an officer started shooting at a suspect who was at 15 yards, maybe he was at 20. The suspect was running, possibly shooting, so the officer did not have a fully available target. And the officer unloaded his entire magazine, which was in excess of, you know, the normal 17 rounds. They gave an extended mag. Very, very quickly. But by the time the suspect was between the 20-yard line to the 35-yard line where the suspect eventually fell at the end of the string of fire, there's no way he hit him with 25 rounds, 22, 23 rounds. That didn't happen because that's not what people do. I mean, it's not normal, okay? And the rate at which he was pulling the trigger, which was literally as fast as he could, it just can't be done. There isn't anybody doing it. Not on a moving target that isn't fully available on the move from 20 to 35 yards, okay? And when you look at that and you go, well, why did that happen, right? And then you go, okay, well, if I put him on the range and I said, by the way, me and my buddy went out and did this on our own on a stationary target, and we were kind of able to hit the target, like, for the most part, but some were not on the, you know, outside of the, you know, the body of the target, and it was just all over the place on a stationary target. But if I take that same officer to the range and I go, okay, here's a target that is not fully available, okay, bladed target, it's going to move on the buzzer, and, you know, I want you to draw your gun and put as many accurate rounds on this target from here to it gets to the 35-yard line. So imagine a bladed person, this, running 15 yard, you know, starting at 20, ending up another 15 yards away from you. Let me ask you guys, how many rounds do you think you're putting on that target? And they count. Let's say it's for a score. Say, hey, don't miss. We want you, you know, all these count for points. And you don't get any, you know, points deducted if you just don't fire a round, but you get points deducted for missing. Well, any reasonable person that has shot a handgun enough will tell you on that kind of target at that distance, at that target difficulty, you know, somewhere between reasonably, 3 to 6, 3 to 7 maybe, not 22. Okay, that same officer, right? So if we did that with that same officer, why would you, in this situation, mag dump as fast as you can, but in this other controlled environment situation where you're missing doesn't even affect anybody, there's no repercussions at all, shoot what makes sense? Because the psychological aspect of gunfighting, the physiological response to stress, which is why the stuff that you hear me talk about and do is about controlling your emotions, right? And learning how to control your mind. So if you can control your mind, there's a good chance you can control the outcome. If you look up Dwayne Dieter, right? By the way, when I was doing all this stuff, I thought I was a genius. I was like, oh man, I figured this thing out. But look up Dwayne Dieter, Navy SEAL trainer. And there's a history there, but essentially he was a civilian that was hired by the Navy SEALs. I think it was like during the creation of SEAL Team 6 and like throughout like a whole decade. And he trained SEALs on basically the thing that I do, which is teaching SEALs how to control their emotions. And they liked his stuff so much that they tried to steal it from him multiple times and sell it. And he wouldn't allow it to happen. So he wouldn't sell it to him. He wouldn't put it on a DVD, and he has a facility and a webpage and all that. I'd like to, train and talk to the guy and all that. But so it's not nothing. There's books on the topic. There's, Taming the Serpent, Left of Bang. Hitting in combat, right? Like there's these things, like it's not new, unfortunately, but it's not mainstream. And I think part of it is because there's a culture that is dominating or does dominate that conversation. So, but yeah, I was on a podcast, the Iron Sights podcast. It's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours long. Iron Sights. You can go to his website, YouTube, Iron Sights podcast, and listen to the podcast that we had. I talk about a study that was done, talking about essentially, what all of these, what was it called? A meta-analysis, which is basically when they take all of these other not reports, but like studies that were done, and they combine them all together, and just kind of use those as a metric of getting a one kind of like data sheet, basically. And essentially, it just goes on to say that training, early onset of exposure to contextually relevant threats increased officers' performance in marksmanship or something like that by like 12% or something like that. So that's more than has ever been done. Like the 19th century policing has hit factor has only marginally increased, and it's probably because of red dots. But yeah, I didn't even answer your question, Joseph, but mental imagery, look at mental imagery. If you're not doing that, if you have no, what should cops, it's not really about how much should cops live fire a week. It's more like, what do you think a cop would reasonably do, right? That's where I'm at. Like, let's try to give them something they can actually do and actually perform. And that's why my courses, that's why if you go on the website somewhere on there, like in a, fine print, or the statement on the website says, a pathway to capable individuals, right? Because the things that I'm teaching you with the understanding that none of you will probably ever train this again, right? Well, because I have patrol cops. When does a patrol cop get his hand on a semi-munition gun? Never. It's hard to, like, even team cop, like tactical teams, they don't have access to that stuff usually. If they want to use it at the department, they gotta bug people, and they're not happy about it, and we gotta have somebody there to watch you and all this stuff. So I basically give cops the information in the course, and I say, I know you guys will not go do this because you just don't have it available to you to do it. So here's what you can do while on the job to train yourself for that moment. The only thing about it is we're not actually pulling the trigger. And I'm not going to get into like kind of the details on that, but yeah. If I've repped, let's just say my high risk vehicle encounters class, you've seen me do the technique. There's a, you guys see it and you're like, well, that's easier. I didn't think of that. It's like, but there's a lot to talk about and a lot of details that are not explained in the 16-second video that I'm doing it. It all boils down to how fast can we get accurate rounds on target. That's the goal in every tactical situation, right? But how many of those did I do before I got into an engagement? Well, probably like real life. My team did like 40 of them. So every one of those takedowns was an opportunity to do it, execute the tactic, but more than actually doing it. And like once you get to a point where you have a process of doing it, I'm not thinking about the things that I'm doing, because that's what cops do when they learn it for the first time. Like, okay, well, how am I doing this? Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, now I got it. Some pick it up fast, some pick it up slow. Some people get it real soon. But I'm to the point in a vehicle takedown where my whole mindset and thinking, like literally what I'm thinking about, is about seeing the information I need to legally engage a lethal threat. And actually, also, when I'm seeing that thing, I'm not emotionally invested in what I'm seeing. And I explain it to people like, you cannot, there's nothing that you do will stop that thing from happening. And I see this a lot of time with cops in the class that are learning it, because they'll do it in practice with paper targets. And as soon as you present a contextually relevant threat, which is a person with a gun, what they were doing fine goes to crap. And why is that? Because, oh no. And then like, okay, but you got to understand that these things that are happening in front of you you got to look at them and like they're playing out like you're sitting on the couch watching a movie, right? When you're watching a movie, let's just say an action movie, because those are pretty monotonous and boring, right? Like you're not feeling anything about it. You're not, changing your behavior over what you're seeing. You're just watching it play out in front of you. So that's how I explain that. And so there is kind of just that understanding of that thing, right? Okay, hand in waistband, gun. But I'm not even thinking about that, right? I'm just seeing it happen. But my thought is actually on marksmanship, right? Red dot, sight alignment, and then just like everything falls into place from there. So that's kind of one of the little cheats about it. And that's the opposite of what cops can do. Cops are so far away from thinking about marksmanship that they are continue to look, oh my gosh, what's he doing? Oh my gosh. And they're thinking about all these things that are happening. And it's just like a fleeting thought, and they never get there. So my thing is if I can get you in a high stress, high stimulus situation to focus or to find your red dot, just to find your red dot on whatever that target is down there, then you will make decisions with gunfire that make sense. So back to the officer who mag dumped, reloaded, then shot more after the guy went down. So he went, like almost 30 rounds probably in a residential area, right? How do we take that cop from what he did right there to bang, bang, bang? Well, you start by getting him to find his sights under stress, because then you will make decisions with gunfire that make sense. Because if the target's running, let's see if I can kind of show you, but I can't really. But if the target's running and your optic is down here, well, you're not pulling the trigger because you don't see him. Okay, I got it. Now I'm pulling the trigger. Bang, right? He's moving faster. He's ducking. You're trying to find him. So very simple things. And I can teach people to do this, and then they can teach themselves. And it's the most applicable thing to cops, because cops are going to leave the class. They're going to go out there. They're going to interact with these people. So you have to be able to train yourself to the point where you are finding your red dot in these stressful situations, and everything should work out. I like flat squirrel theory. Making a choice is better than freezing. Well, I mean, it could be true, and it could be not true. I mean, you could freeze because you're like, oh, and then the guy shoots where you were actually going to move because you made a decision. But I don't know. There's another thing about that. It's like making a bad decision now is better than making a good decision later or something like that. I don't know. Something like that. Hey Kinetic, since concealed carry is becoming more popular and all these videos analyzing civilian shootouts is creating a culture where criminals are more likely to shoot without asking. You have more. Is that it? Let's see. Shout out to Capone Gaming. He is a member of the channel and he speaks Spanish. So I think it says greetings from Puerto Rico only because he said that before. And if anybody speaks Spanish and can translate, that'd be helpful because I do not. Unless it allows me to translate. But let's see. So do hope if you have a question related to what you said, try to clarify because is creating a culture where criminals are more likely to shoot without asking. Well, that should be the assumption. But as somebody who is maybe a victim to a criminal, you have to understand the risk versus reward. And do you have a tactical advantage in the moment, or can you gain a tactical advantage by doing something? Because doing nothing might be the best thing for you. But you should assume that they're going to kill you. Because that's what you're going to feel. Somebody comes up to you and points a gun at your head, that's what you're going to feel. I had a guy like 3 weeks ago. Suspect crashed into a vehicle in an intersection. That vehicle that he hit flipped over. It was an SUV. The suspect who crashed into the SUV jumped out of the vehicle he wrecked, carjacked a random person that stopped because they saw the accident, stuck a gun to his head and got in his car and left. And then he decided he was going to drive down the street and flag down deputies and act erratic and like say he got robbed. It was really weird. Long story short, he went to jail. But the guy I talked to thought the guy was going to shoot him, for his car, and he could have. Do you believe mastering the quick draw is cops' best bet at staying above the power curve? If not, then what is? Yes, I do. One of the things, and this is more future stuff, because I want to be able to show you guys these things on the range, but words can't really explain how important that is. That's probably the most, being out of the holster and to an accurate round at variable distances, at variable targets of difficulty is the most, I think, probably the most important thing that you could be really good at. And you could answer why. I know you know, or someone knows, right? Because the guy who gets the hit first is probably going to win. And if we have to come out of the holster like that and deliver a round like that, he might be shooting at you already. So you better get that hit before one of those get you. But yeah, that's a big deal. You got to be fast out of the holster. And it's the most important thing. The second thing after that, that's most important, is ready up drills. So one of the thing that I train the most, I have a process for the things that I train on the range, but, and if you go to school.com and you type in surviving the street, school.com surviving the street, you'll find a group of mine that I have 90 officers in it. Not all of them are officers. Anybody's welcome to join. You just have to be a reasonable person and not act weird. But there's classes on there and stuff. But one of the things I have on there is a dry fire program where I go through, it's like a 15-minute dry fire program. And the whole purpose of it is, one, give cops something that they could reasonably do. It's not easy, by the way. You have to kind of work yourself up to it if you're not familiar with it. And with the primary thing you're doing, a majority of the, well, what you are doing pretty much the entire time is one of two things: coming out of the holster, or a ready up drill from different positions, different ready positions, and then moving out of the holster, and then moving ready up drill. I mean, yeah, it's super important. Those are the top two things, in my opinion. And what would be the next? I would say the next thing. Well, I mean, we're skipping over fundamentals, really, right? We're talking about kind of like drills. So obviously, grip is really important, because if you have a good grip, proper grip, you're probably going to avoid malfunctions. So that's really important. But then, just like from other, so it'd be like out of the holster, then ready up drills, and then malfunctions. Being able to clear stoppages or transition between your rifle to your pistol, because those are the things that are going to kill you. I mean, right? In that order, probably. Like if you have to come out of the holster, like, and get around on target, like it's life or death. You're going to win or lose right there. Then we have what we taught, ready up drills. So you're already out of the holster and you're holding coverage on something, or, okay, we're searching. Oh, lethal threat. How fast can you put accurate rounds on target? And then if you have a crappy grip or your gun's jacked up or whatever, and you go bang and you can't clear, like in a hurry, like right now, you're dead. So there was a video I did on my old channel a while back. Where was it? I want to say it's like Wisconsin or something. But long story short, kind of a suspect that they knew of, and they stopped him on traffic. Female officer asked for backup. I think it was a female officer. Pulled over. That dude got out of the driver's seat with a rifle and just shot her right there, and like either in the car, in the driver's seat, or like kind of stepping out of the car. I think maybe stepping out. And the backup officer, like he got there right before that, like before that happened. So I think you go watch it if you can find it. I might, but he gets there about the time that, well, he's like walking up, right, in his own car. He left his car. He's walking up, and then she's being shot at. So he's like on the radio. He's trying to also now he's trying to engage. The suspect is walking around the rear end of, I believe it would be either his police car at that point or the deputy's car, and the officer is shooting, but he has a malfunction, and he never clears it. Like you could see him kind of trying, and by that point, because you could see like the suspect's feet like underneath the car, like he's moving to create an angle like towards the rear of the vehicle, and he starts shooting at the officer, and the officer has a malfunction at that point, and at that point the officer's kind of like rolling on the ground or trying to do whatever. And I called out in that video what I believe the issue was with that. What was it? I can't remember what, and I thought I kind of nailed it with the issue and how he could have fixed that very easily. But yeah, like that's a big problem. And then after that, I don't know. Moving and shooting. Yeah, I'd say moving and shooting. That makes sense. Maybe you can interchange those kind of about important levels, but I think those are pretty good. Do you believe master? Okay, answer that. Do you know Patrick Lancaster? I do not. Battle Drill 6 is dynamic entry. Oh, okay. Because I was like reading over the Ranger manual, and it mentioned that, but I thought probably that was what it was. But what was your question on that? The Battle Drill 6, or if you have one, or you said like that you were taught that was the only thing you were taught. Well, when I was in the Marines, that's all I was taught too. But also, there's just like, you're kind of like at a major disadvantage in a combat zone on the safety side of things. I showed you the combined arms thing. They know we're there. We're in the building. I mean, look at the Marines, in Fallujah, when they encounter somebody they know is in the house, right? They're like running back up the stairs, like, oh, he's in there, get out. Dropping grenades from the top, like nobody's going in there. That's crazy. That makes sense. And at the end of the day, all you can really do, and most cops have to do it this way too, just because they don't have tools. They don't really have time a lot of the time, or that much time. And so, like, the safest place you can be is not patrol. And that's one of the reasons why, but also, like, no training, complacency, all the things we've talked about. But the team stuff is the safest thing you could do because everything's right in front of you. Usually you have the information. We tried to never even be in the house. Tried to get them while they were mobile in their vehicles, or because we always felt like we had the tactical advantage. Because I had a conversation, well, call it a conversation with somebody I know who was kind of arguing with me like about the safety thing in CQB and saying, well, you do vehicle takedowns and isn't that dangerous? And I'm like, it's not more dangerous than going inside of an environment that you're not familiar with. You don't know the angles. You can't cover things simultaneously more often than not. Now he knows you're inside and he's just waiting for you. Like, that's not safer than me knowing where the target is inside this vehicle, as long as we contain the vehicle, and then being here before he can even get out of the car and knows what's happening. So, yeah. Thanks for the coverage on Ukraine. I have a video coming out tomorrow. It's the Pervo 1, the Foreign Legion's first push into Provomesk. Provomesk, I think I say it. And, you know, I don't know. Just check it out. But there's not a whole lot of combat in that. It's more about their personal experiences and stuff. They have a Pervo 2, which I don't think I'm going to do because they lost a couple guys, and it's a 40-minute video without me even talking or saying anything. I just don't think I can make what would end up being like an hour-long video. Like, I just, giving my opinion, and I don't know. I wouldn't want to stop the video that often, and that's a problem too because YouTube and original work and providing commentary, and you have to say things every now and then. You have to do something. So I don't know that it would be appropriate for a number of reasons to do the number 2, and so I don't think that I will. I do, maybe just a membership thing. I don't know. Hitting a moving target, it's probably the best thing for training. 5 target star comes into mind. Starts rotating. Yeah. Ancillary. Okay, it's a big word for. Yeah. It's true. Moving targets, you moving, but that's all stuff that is kind of out of the possibility for a lot of people or cops or whatever. Seeing how shooting on the move is so common in real world shootings, but most elite units are not able to get those reps in because it's deemed unsafe. Just my experience might be different. I don't know. I mean, it's just not. It's not part of a qualification usually. I mean, there's so many issues with training and policing that it's like crazy to even talk about because we shouldn't even. It's not set up so that you build competency. It's set up to say, we taught you, we trained you, we showed you, and you did something. You shot somebody else, and that's not our fault, right? It's money, it's time, and when it comes down to actually, brass and paying for it and things like that, especially on a larger department, it's not gonna really happen that often. If you guys are in the chat and you haven't liked it yet, that'd be cool. You do that. I might, let's see, can I translate this? Let me see. All right, well, let me see if I can copy and paste. Oh, does somebody want to maybe help me? The Hispanic, I think is the proper thing to say. Gentlemen, I can't copy it. Could somebody copy what he said and like put it in a translator and tell me what he said? That'd be helpful. It might be easier for you to do it, but maybe you can't either. Let's see. Caponi's translation. I like your content. I want to see more combat in trenches. Oh. Well, thank you. Somebody already did it. That's awesome. Yeah, so I have another video that I'm working on right now. I'm getting all of the, I have it dubbed already. I have to go through the whole entire video, figure out where the English words go over the Ukrainian language, and then that will be, I do the video, talk about it. And, you know, those, I do, that's the other thing about them. There's other videos that on the trench stuff that I haven't done that are available, but I just don't want to do a 40-minute video. Like, I don't want to put out a video that's an hour long of me talking about it. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe people will love it, but like, it feels weird to me because it's so long, you know? And in some of them, there's not necessarily relevant things. So I try to pick ones that I think there will be some relevant things to talk about. The one I'm working on, I think, is like 15 minutes. So that's like almost perfect. If I can say a few things, it'll be 20 minutes long. And that seems reasonable, or 25, right? So it's kind of, I'll do what I can and try to. Stress inoculation, mastery of the fundamentals, low light, shoot, don't shoot, movement, moving targets, frequent practice, subconscious competence, mindset, proper eye movement, and just time on duty. Yeah, and actually, Joseph, time on duty was one of the things in that study that they said was, they gave a percentage. It was like 2% a year or something like that, contributed to officers' success in stressful situations. I don't know if that was marksmanship or not. Said thank you, gracias. I know what that means. Fantastic. Something about English. You speak. They said yo lo hablo también. Very good. You speak very good. Something probably. Escribo, which is like writing. I'm kind of onto something. I apologize, Capone. Try to like, maybe you could do a translation, Capone Gaming. Maybe you could do Espanol translate English, and then post it. Maybe that would be helpful. Why do cops arrest felons for possession of guns when they aren't doing anything wrong and think it's okay? Also, drugs should be legal. Either. Well, cops arrest felons for guns because it's illegal for felons to possess guns, and probably everywhere because it's a federal offense. So you can't have a gun if you're a felon. That's why they do it. And there's a good chance if you are one and you have a gun, you're going to go get fed time, which is day for day, and probably a minimum of 5 years. Yeah. And I would say every single felon I've ever found with a gun wasn't necessarily a law-abiding citizen trying to do the right thing and protect himself. You know what I mean? I mean, to a certain degree, but you get it. Are you saying drugs should be legal? Drugs should be illegal either? Are you saying drugs should not be illegal? Well, I'll tell you this. I don't want to deal with any amount of drugs personally as a cop that is for personal use. Not say personal use, but let's say amount, right? Whatever that is. And I say I don't want to deal with it, meaning like it's kind of a waste of time for a whole lot of people, right? Especially in the county that I work, because they don't charge, well, they charge people, but they just, you know, probably don't convict you. Judge probably throws it out. You got to transport the person to jail. You got to tag it. You're out of service, right? It's kind of a big waste of time. But unfortunately, the laws are what they are. And as officers, you have to do it because if you don't, then you could be in trouble for not doing your job, or, yeah, we'll just say that. And I posted on Instagram because something happened today. Oh, yeah, I called the DA for a charge that the person committed. But the DA basically said, yeah, they did it, but the judge is just going to throw this out anyways, so we're not even going to take it. Like, oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, but it doesn't surprise me. But anyways, so like, I think I posted on there, before you move anywhere and go say, move to a location like, oh, this place looks nice, let's move to this county. You need to figure out who the DA is. You need to figure out what crimes they're prosecuting for, what people are actually spending time for. because you're just safer. Like, and the criminals know it. So, you know, the county in which they don't enforce the laws and nobody does time, the criminals don't care. And what happens is everybody is affected by that. And so one of the ways that you could probably judge on whether or not they convict people for crimes is whether or not they arrest people for possession of marijuana, which is a federal offense. However, in our county, basically, it's not illegal. I mean, it is, but they don't enforce it, right? So, and I'm not saying that because I'm against it. You know, possession of weed or whatever, I don't really care. Like I said, I don't care for any really drugs that are of a small amount that's for personal use. But I am saying like that's a good metric to understand whether or not that county is gonna, you know, handle criminals appropriately, because the county adjoining ours, like you get arrested for it. Do I agree with that? Kind of, maybe not really, but I'm just saying it's an indication that, oh, they probably they probably convict people, and I know for a fact they do. So we followed a crew that was doing smash and grabs at pawn stores. Long story short, we followed them into the adjoining county, and we're literally like, this is awesome, let's go, because, you know, we just know in our county they're not going to get time. One of the guys was out on bond for a murder, and long story short, like at least 2 of those guys got like 40 years or something like that for a smash and grab at one store, you know, one pawn store. They had done like 20 of them, but they only did one in that county, right? So that's where you want to live if you want to be safe. Because they know, like, criminals do not like going into counties where they know if they get caught, they're screwed. So like a bank jugging is when somebody follows you from the bank, which happens, by the way, in my county, in the past 90 days, there was like 300 and something of them. So over the course of a year, that's, what is that? Slow, but like over 1,000, right? Over 1,000 bank juggings. And that's just our agency, not counting the county, right? So there's probably like 2,000 juggings that occur in our city a year, which is a lot, which is every single day, multiple a day. And they get no time for it in our county. And a bank jugger in the adjoining county got 45 years, which I think, yeah, maybe a little bit harsh, but like you shouldn't be following people from banks, you know, that's kind of, you know, scary. Like you're victimizing people by following them. And so that's all I'm saying. Like you want to live in a safe place, you got to go to a place where they arrest criminals, they prosecute criminals, and criminals get time in jail. So like there's not everybody deserves to be arrested, not everybody deserves to go to jail, not everybody even really deserves to do time, because maybe there's an alternative method that's good, right? But there's a lot of people that need to be in jail that shouldn't be out on the street, prison, right? And there's a lot of people that shouldn't be here, period. So have you done, oh sorry, I skipped over that. Have you done any injured shooter stuff before? Not really. I don't know, kind of niche. Haven't done it. I say that. I've done like, yeah, kind of like one arm, one hand, whatever. I don't know. It's a niche thing, I think. I think for CQB, an entry team is less prepared for dealing with a counter assault. Else seems like an under-considered huge threat. Well, a counter assault is like, you know, you're being attacked. But that's not usually what's happening in CQB. At least on the police side, they're shooting from a defensive posture, lying in wait, shooting. Attacking with gunfire, but not physically moving. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I mean, there's been times inside of structures, which, by the way, patrol cops shoot more people inside of structures and confined spaces in a CQB environment than any other type of officer, right? And if you want to like talk about, well, how necessary is CQB skills, right? Well, nearly every officer that gets into a shooting inside of a structure doesn't die, doesn't even get shot, right? Because, well, the suspect's charging at them with a knife or, you know, etc. So it's an important thing. That's why I stress one-man CQB or two-man, because you're always going to be, if there's anybody you need to count on or should count on, it's yourself. You don't know who's going to show up to help you or how, you know, competent they are, or you do know that they're not competent. So let's see. Don't worry about people with TikTok brain, brother. Stay true to yourself. And if you want to make a longer video, do it. Bro, I'd watch it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just maybe not in the cards right now. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you for translating. Fantastic of this channel. And if I understand English and I speak it too, but I can't write it. Oh, he understands English and he speaks it, but he can't write it. Oh, that's interesting. That makes sense though. I know that that happens. Yeah, I can turn the volume up. Let's see if that did anything. I think I'm turning it up on your end. I could bring the mic closer. Give it a shot. Clearing malfunctions and reloads with only one hand get interesting, especially when it's your offhand. Similar to running a shield. Well, yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, you know, shield work. But don't have time to stay, but I bet something. I can't. YouTube puts this emoji thing in the bottom right corner of the messages, and I can't. Maybe I can toggle it somehow, but I can't see what you said exactly. But bet it's something as always. All right. Well, while we have a second, let me go over to questions that I was like, see, we're on like 2. I mean, you guys are good though. You guys ask good questions. Or we're not even on 2. We only started with 1. We're not even, there's like 5. Because like these things I could just talk about for a long time. But topic, vehicle stop and approaches, maybe some vehicle CQB. Made a video that isn't very good. I need to actually kind of redo it, but vehicle approaches. Like there's studies that were done on this, and there's areas of the vehicle on either side that it's called the mitigation zone, which is essentially where they say you're the safest. Yeah, you're right, John. It is. Yeah, exactly. And I'm in Texas, so. But yeah, so there's areas of the vehicle, passenger, driver side, mitigation zones where you're the safest. The problem with this conversation, this is why I made a video on it, is that people talk about vehicle approaches and it being the safer on the passenger side. There's reasons why it could actually be that. One of them is like, well, you're away from the moving lane of traffic, so you don't have to worry about getting hit. But the safety being, you know, approach, well, it's not even on the approach actually, right? People say vehicle approaches. Well, the study was done once the officer was in the interviewing like location, right? So at the B pillar, or inside the mitigation zone. That's when it started, not on the actual walking up portion. That's the first thing. And basically what the study found, which makes sense, is that when you're in the mitigation zones, like there's marginally no difference in levels of safety on either side, right? The mitigation zone, I think it's on the passenger side. Can't remember when I did it, but it may be a little bit bigger or whatever. But, and I don't think it talks about this, but an assumption I made or a correlation I made is that the reason that the passenger side approach could be safer after the gunfire starts, because if the driver is your suspect, if in order for him to continue hitting you, he has to now overcome his own vehicle to find you, locate you, and engage you. And it's not really that great when you start looking at, and I think in the video I made, I show body cameras. When you, like, there's instances where there's an instance where a cop was on the driver's side, and the suspect who shot him was on the passenger side front, who shot across the driver and hit the cop in the hand, and he ran back and his gun was malfunctioning or whatever, and he shot a lot, and I think he, did what he had to do. But the question goes, oh, so if he would have had to have approached on the passenger side, well, he'd probably be dead, right? I'm imagining, because the suspect would be right here and the cop would be right here. Well, maybe not dead, but you get the idea. So it can be safer. I think you have to understand. You have to, like most of these things, like it's one thing to say something and have an assumption based on like a bunch of videos you saw where a cop survived on the driver's side or passenger side because, oh, the suspect wasn't paying attention. And I can find you, like, I'm going to say 10 to 1, but I can find you a lot of wins from the officer on the driver's side. There's the other one, right, where the it's not a trooper, deputy, I believe, did a stop for a task force on in Albuquerque or New Mexico or something, on that white truck, and he pulled over. The cop's on the passenger side talking to him. He goes, oh yeah, I'm gonna step out of the car, whatever. Suspect steps out of the car on the driver's side, and they are basically meeting, like walking down the truck to meet each other on the back of the truck. The guy has a rifle, and he's like getting it ready, and then he comes up over the top of the bed of the truck and shoots the cop. So he was on the passenger side, and he still got shot, right? So there's a, if you have a partner and you're going to approach a vehicle, you can, what we would do is, obviously the person in the car knows that you're there, like the driver of the officer vehicle is there, right? So what we would do is, either at night or in the daytime, it works either way. If you only have a driver, suspect or, person, is like if something was odd or not even just randomly, right? It's like my partner would walk up within view of the driver where the driver's looking at him, still back away from the rear bumper. And we would have already said like, hey, I got it. I'll take it on this side. And I would walk up and I would be looking in the car as the driver's looking at him because he knows he's there. And a lot of times that worked because, like, it's a certain level of deception. It's not really the same when you have one officer. Like, you can't base what works off of incoherent and unprepared suspects, right? So an instance where a guy's drunk and he's high and he's got a gun, and then, he's not even seeing straight, and the guy walks up on the passenger side and the officer wins, or, vice versa or whatever. That's not a good, like, test. It worked out, but shouldn't necessarily be the rule. And one of the stories that was told by somebody who has a lot of followers on this passenger side, which also kind of made me want to make a video on it. He tells a story about like his cousin or something that was in a police academy. And he's like, my cousin, they were doing traffic stops with simunition. And he basically says like, he was like the 15th person. And by the way, I'm paraphrasing, so I'm wrong, but basically says like he was like the 15th person to go. And every instructor was telling the officers to approach on the driver's side. And my cousin decided that he was going to, my cousin decided that he was going to approach on the passenger side. And what do you know? The suspect, or the person playing the suspect, got out and expected to see him and didn't, and my cousin shot him. See, that's a great example. It's like, okay, well, first of all, when people, instructors are setting a scenario, right? It's not usually like a free for all, like, hey, let's just see what happens. There's an objective to what we're doing. And I can't say I know for certain what their objective was, but they gave them information to do it in a certain way. They wanted to see something. And also, you have a person who is playing the bad guy. He's done this 15 times already. and he knows that they were told to walk up over here, well, guess what? He thinks he's there, right? Now, if it was a free-for-all and they weren't given information and he didn't just go 15 times where every cadet walked up on that side and he went bang, 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 right? Well, I mean, you're not going to be able to walk up on a car and me not be able to know where you're at as I'm the driver. Because I'm going to make sure I know where you are if I want to engage you and win. So in that situation, like, okay, we're just basing like the win in that situation off of a failed drill, basically, with an objective that probably wasn't met. And, you know, utilizing the fact that this guy did this over and over again and was expecting a certain thing. So, okay, let's redo this. But let's just say you pick officer on what side you want to approach on. You suspect, you just do what you need to do to shoot him. You're going to have a different outcome. So, but you talked about vehicle CQB. I don't know if you guys are new here. You haven't heard me talk about this, and I haven't really gone into great detail about this. I don't think, especially not in this channel, but, oh wait, didn't I? Oh yeah, I did a live. I actually deleted it because I didn't want to get screwed by YouTube for showing people shooting, but, about shooting through your windshield. Like, it's a last ditch effort. It's a Hail Mary. You should not do it unless you are being ambushed or feel like you are. And when you do that, you should be under the impression that you don't think it's going to work. Like, you don't think you're going to hit the person. It'd be great if you did. But all you can really hope for is that you, discourage the person's behavior from continuing to do what they're doing. And that can be effective. But there was a time period, or maybe it's still happening now, where, like, I guess cops think it's cool to shoot through their windshield and they're just doing it. That's one of the videos I show in my vehicle class is like 6 minutes of cops just shooting through their windshield all the time. Like, in a vehicle pursuit, going, whatever, like through an entire neighborhood and mag dumping. Yeah, that's a real thing that happened. And that is so crazy to me. And the most of the time, like, if it's not an ambush and you're shooting through your windshield, which is why I am an advocate not to do it. Here's a process where you can clear your muzzle. You can guarantee hits. If you can clear your muzzle, you can guarantee hits. If you can clear your muzzle, the only thing that now it is all marksmanship. But you start putting things in front of your muzzle. I mean, things happen. You can't shoot through the same hole unless it's just by happenstance. Okay? Because the same hole means literally the same hole. Not I made this hole and now I kind of nicked the side and I made the hole bigger. That's not the same hole. There's a lot of things about shooting through your windshield that are okay on the range, but in practice don't happen, can't happen physiologically, won't allow you to happen. And I don't care what people do. Like, doesn't matter to me, but I'm not going to teach cops to do that. Because it increases your liability and lowers your accountability. And when you do this stuff where you're shooting from inside of a car out, which I've done enough of, what it is an experience. That's what it is. You are becoming familiar with being in a vehicle and chaos happening. That's what you're doing. You're not building predictable outcomes. I can prove it to you fairly quickly. Put me on a range, give me a couple cars, and give me somebody who thinks that they're competent in shooting through their windshield. Because as soon as I make it at variable distances with targets that are unpredictable, with targets of varying difficulty, and I don't tell them what's happening, and I don't give them the information, and the target isn't right in front of their hood, yeah, they just don't hit. Because you can't. So there's that. Let me keep reading these real quick. So someone said, mainly for police, I've been curious about whether stopping the threat should really always be a mag dump at vitals until moving stops. I know very well why that's the default, and it can definitely be needed. Well, stopping the threat. No, I mean, stopping the threat does not mean that, though. Stopping the threat does not mean that you should mag dump on vitals until it stops moving. They stop moving. You should engage somebody until they are no longer a threat to you. So that can be 1 round. That could be 2. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is. Okay, but a lot of times cops are shooting a lot, not because, well, yeah, because it is necessary, because they're missing, or they're not hitting them where they're supposed to be, or they're shooting too fast. The physiological responses. They're shooting outside of what is likely, possible to the, even an advanced shooter. Like I've shown videos of cops, on the run, like targets like 30 yards away, and like, they're shooting, and you're not hitting things like that. So cops will shoot and pull the trigger until the thing that they want to happen, they see happen. Or, right, so, okay, he's not a threat anymore. You just went 0 for 5. Okay, he's down. I can stop now, or around that time. And some of it is not excessively shooting, but like, again, physiological, perception, things like that. Maybe you should cover the possibility of games like Ready or Not, Ground Branch being effective tools for teaching tactics. I did a live where I kind of went over somebody's gameplay. I think they could be good teaching tools to like demonstrate things for sure. I don't know what the correlation is between. Oh no. But anyways, yeah, so we talked about that. Someone said Sheriff's Department and criminal justice as far as terrorism in the USA. I have no idea what to say to that. I don't know. Like, I don't know sheriff's departments have like terrorism or counterterrorism, the unit or whatever. But like, that stuff's pretty boring, Pretty boring. They're gonna make it exciting, like, oh, we intercepted a Facebook message and went and arrested this guy. Yeah, I'm sure. Possibly force on force training, airsoft for sims, the positive and negative effects and that I've experienced, and I haven't experienced airsoft at all one time. I have 2 airsoft guns back here, but the optic that I have to mount on it won't fit the plate that comes with the gun because it's not 1-to-1 plates and slides with airsoft, so that's aggravating. But the place that I make a lot of my videos are an airsoft arena. I know the owner, and guess we're buddies, and I plan on talking to him, like having a podcast with him probably. But I do want to get into it more on the realistic side and actually do like a comparison. How can these actually be used for training, and maybe training more on the force on force thing. So like but the issue with airsofters and airsoft is that they're not treating them like real guns, but they can be. Why not? I mean, it's no different shooting an airsoft gun and shooting a sim gun. The only thing that's happening is the difference in the round on target. But I'm not going to suddenly get an so if I build like an airsoft rifle to mimic my rifle, which I want to do, or a rifle, right? And use that because it's cost effective. I'm not going to all of a sudden like hit a corner or do what you saw me do in those other shooting videos and like mag dump. I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing now. So, because that's building good habits, right? One of the things that, so look, like what I believe, post this on Instagram where I said, like, I teach a different philosophy in training because the SHIT stuff that you've been taught for the last 20 years hasn't worked, right? And so, like, let's just think about training. Like, what is training? Well, I mean, it's repetition. It's doing something over and over again until it becomes a habit, till you get predictable outcomes, right? To where you don't have to think about what you're doing because you've done it so much that it just happens. Well, one of the things in the shooting community is that, like, if you learn to shoot very fast and control the gun or whatever, multiple rounds on multiple targets or multiple rounds on one target, 3, 4, 5, 6, build or whatever, that because you know how to do that and control it so well, that you'll be able to slow down in real life. So, like, let me just ask this, and maybe I'm crazy, but if I always shoot at targets, for the most part, depending on distance, target difficulty, but like, if the target's 15 yards away and I'm in my car and I go on the buzzer, beep, pow. And so bang, is he still there? Bang, is he still there? Which was a little bit, I still shot faster, a little bit faster than that. But I know that the target that I'm shooting at is unpredictable. I could hit it once and it could be gone or moving. So that when you see the way that I'm shooting as if it's more or less closer to real life. So if I train myself in this way, where I'm shooting at targets that may or may not be there, bang, bang, because it's still there, do you think I'm going to do that in real life more likely? Or is it more likely that if I train, which I'm going to make a video about like what people want to see me do versus what I do, and I'm going to shoot a lot at targets, like hit a corner, pa, 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 right? So if I trained that way, which by the way, someone told me one time, or well-trained guy, one of the highest trained persons I know on the law enforcement side told me, he's like, you know why I shoot a lot in training? So I shoot a lot in real life. Oh yeah, that's true, because he does shoot a lot in real life. You know what he also does in real life a lot? Miss. So, if we're trying to raise accountability and increase the probability that we don't miss, what do you think would be more reasonably avenue to achieving that thing? I'm not talking about, slow trigger pull, okay, I have my sights, bang. If I'm getting to the target from my car seated position in it was like 1.57 seconds on one of those targets. I think the target that was farthest away. Yeah, it was that target. I didn't time the other one. Posted on Instagram, I think. If you hit him again, or you hit him a third time, cool. But let's just hit him first, right? So one of the things that, again, I trained myself to do this. I got into a shooting. I essentially came around the back end of the rear pinning vehicle. Suspect was standing. So I come around the back of the vehicle and I'm initially looking where these officers are running past this other guy who had a gun, who ran out of the car. And so initially my focus wasn't to where the suspect, I knew the suspect was coming out of the car. But as soon as I recognized that they were running after him and I needed to stay, I turned, right? So probably a step after I got past the rear of the vehicle, I turned my head just enough time to see him standing. By the time I saw him and he saw me, he dropped down to his knees and he continued to pull a gun, the gun out of he was standing up initially, trying to pull the gun, I believe, to engage the officers on the other side of the car. Saw me, I saw him, he dropped down, he continued to pull the gun. But this is how fast it happened. So I'm coming around the back of the car. I'm initially focused here. As soon as I glance here, I see him, he sees me. I'm not even have my body turned yet. I'm like, hey, drop it. And in that time frame of when I'm seeing it and saying that, I'm coming down from a high ready. Rifle was underneath my arm. Another mistake that I made. Go over that at a later time. In terms of trying to use the radio and whatnot. And I do say this, I've made every mistake I tell people not to make, but it didn't cost me anything, and hopefully it doesn't cost you everything. So, hey, drop it. Come down from a high ready. Bang. He's 10 yards away, kneeling, bladed, and I hit him one time underneath the armpit, and it went through, basically went through probably both lungs and bulged on the other side, and he dropped, and so I hit him that one time, bang. I followed him to the ground and stayed on him, and when he fell to the ground, the gun wasn't in view, he was laying on his hands, so I just didn't engage him again. And the gun had basically fell underneath the car when he fell forward. And that was it, And I had people ask me, why'd you only shoot once? And I'm like, just because that was what I had, and he immediately reacted to it. I saw his shirt go like this, go like that, when I hit him. And I was ready to get him again, But by the time I was ready to get him again, which is like, bang, is he still there? He literally was not there. Okay. So I just feel like that's a better philosophy to be teaching. It has nothing to do with being slow. I'm not saying even train to shoot slow. Not even saying don't train to do the things the way that they're saying. But I think that there's some evidence that shows that if we teach officers how to control their mind and operate under stress, there's a good chance that we are going to get the outcomes that we're looking for. Because, again, the things that we've been doing have not been working. Let's see. Gotta think, though, predominantly most people are right-handed, thus making it easier for them to shoot the right side of the car with the bigger shooting versus, yeah. So that's true. And also, like, if I'm the shooter, if I'm the suspect in the vehicle, and I want to shoot you, and I know that I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to do it when you're available to be shot. Okay? So, like, if you, and in that video that I made, if you, like, basically, I'm, double me again, but I'm, like, at the right rear window, like, leaned over, and I'm like, hey, sir, blah, 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 talking to myself. I'm like, you have an ID? And I'm like, I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and I'm like, yeah, I got it right here. And I go, bang, like that, at the camera, and, like, that's it. Now, maybe you missed or whatever, but, like, it wasn't more difficult really for me to hit you. It's just an opportunity thing. So I'm not gonna, like, say you should always do it on the right side, because you could do it on the right side and it would have been a better decision to go to the left. But if you can have an opportunity to deploy levels of deception, which is like you have a partner, right? That's helpful. Working for DHS, following a cartel guy, that trooper was not adequately prepared by the people who should have. Yeah. Was he a trooper though? Didn't really. Was he? He probably was, right? But the problem that I have with that is something that happens all the time in law enforcement, and it actually happened in our department too. And this pisses me off. And I've been an advocate against this, and I've been asked to do this, and like I'm not doing it that way, right? Which is like, we are stopping this person who we know we're taking to jail. We're arresting him, we're detaining him. That's what we're doing. We presume he's armed, don't know if he is, but we know that we're taking him to jail. So why are we not basically doing like a felony stop where we're just at least calling them out? Like I do this thing where it's like, felony stop is like people are pointing their guns like, yeah, car, You can do that, and I've done it a lot, where you're not actually pointing your gun. Maybe you don't even have your gun out, but you're standing at the rear of your car. Hey, step out for me, right? Because I'd rather you step out of your car and see that you don't have a gun, and like, hey, turn around, let me see. Okay, come on, walk back here, and never even take my gun out of my holster because it's like just the guy was driving weird and trying to dodge me or something like that, right? So what happened in that situation was probably what happens all the time, where these units are like, we don't want to spook him, we don't want him to know, and we want to protect the integrity of the investigation. So they throw cops, usually patrol cops, by the way, because that's who they get to like do these stops. And they're like, oh, we don't want to freak him out. It's like, you have charges on him for something. Like, why am I approaching this car? I hated that. And cops have been shot over it. So I just answered that, I guess. Chase, stepping out. Yes, the answer is yes. You should check out training research into LEO movement and lethal encounters. Shooting on the move is only the third most common or so. Like the third most common thing to happen, or What do you mean by that? So like, yeah, there's so much to like, this could be a whole like hour-long video of me standing at a whiteboard explaining why it's like you're paying for an experience and shooting through your windshield. I think you're talking about the one where it was like dark and the trooper ends up shooting an absurd number of rounds, right? There's like a helicopter overhead that's viewing it. There's that one, then there's another one where a trooper's shooting at like a bank robber on a desolate, you know. There's so much wrong with it. I don't mind that people do it, but I think we are definitely telling cops that it's okay to shoot through your windshield. I mean, I've seen cops get out of the car and then get back in and then shoot through their windshield. Traffic unit in my town, motor officers making almost 50 stops per day in higher crime area. Wild. Gotta visualize every scenario. Yeah, so like one of the things, Joseph, with the dry firing, and I've done this, but I don't like to do it, and I see a lot of people doing this, and I'm sure there's differencing of opinions, and this is just my opinion. You seen the videos where guys are shooting really fast from the draw, but they're point shooting, right? Um, and so like you're seeing like 0.75 seconds, and they're not like hitting the A zone every time either, like C zone, D zone, but they're hitting the target, right? I mean, I don't know. I just don't, I would not make that a habit, right? I would rather, like, it's okay, like, you could, for me to, like, test it. I've done it, right? Just let me see, like, okay, I didn't really have a sight picture, but I hit the target, you know? Okay, I didn't really have a sight picture, like, kind of saw it, but I'm, you know, fast, like 0.8 seconds, 0.9 or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, well, how fast can I actually get a sight picture and hit it, right? And I think I've done that. Like really pushing it for me is like 0.95, 1 second, where like I'm high A zone consistently. But that's like really at the top end of like I saw my dot, I had it, and I put it there. But I'd say like more of a comfortable level of confirmation for me is like 1.1 to 125. Where I'm like feel like really good about that. So I just think that for me it's always about the sight picture part. I know like there's the whole point shooting thing and you know that, but yeah. I mean, I wouldn't default to point shooting. A lot of cops too talk about point shooting and they don't know what they're talking about. They're just like, "Oh, I can point shoot at that distance." And it turns out no they can't. And because they're really boiling down point shooting to um the mechanical process of pointing your gun at the target at whatever distance, at whatever difficulty, and just believing because you're in such close proximity that you're going to hit it. And so if that's true, right, just based on that metric, well, then my wife, who really hasn't ever shot a gun, you know, a couple times, can also point shoot, you know, at same distance, at same target difficulty, which, you know, that could happen too. But cops using the excuse that they can point shoot at that distance is an excuse for them not finding their sights when they had enough time to find their sights. And then if you look at the instances where cops claim to have been point shooting or, you know, can point shoot at that distance and did, look at the hit ratio, I would say you probably shouldn't do that. Yeah, I agree. That's what I kind of just said. Marston. Marston, I think I said that right. Anyways, time is it? 11. I actually need to make a couple videos off of the screen. But well, this is going on how long I've been doing this for. Doesn't say. Does it? 11. It's not really that long. I've done longer. But I don't point shoot. Past 3 yards, I'm target focused, but sight aware, irons or red dot. But I've been shooting for 30 years. Didn't really get good until 2016. Yeah, that's a good. There is definitely a point shoot distance, but for me, it's like you said, it's like so obvious, 3 yards, pretty obvious. 5 yards is like still kind of there. But beyond that, good time to point shoot. Could be shooting from retention. Yeah. And especially if you're doing that though, you better be close. Like they're on top of you, right? Like kind of drawing something like that. That'd be interesting. It's interesting that you say that though, because most people would not say that. They would claim skill or claim they did something they actually didn't do, which has been my experience. Most of the time when I hear cops in person talking about their shooting, like they're almost always not truthful. Or they're arguing, like you got 3 cops shooting, you're like, no, I shot him. I shot him in the head. No, that was my round. But anyways, good stream, I think. Appreciate you guys coming by, saying what's up. You can always count on Joseph. Joseph is clutch in the stream. Usually. We just talked about a lot of stuff. Didn't get to any videos, so I apologize. So real quick, I can address this. Try to make it fast. But he said, why do we keep seeing cops shooting one-handed? Why we carry tasers and other tools to support side and yet use them on the dominant side? Well, he's asking why we carry tasers on the other side, on the support side, and I feel like he should know the answer if he's being forced to do that. But the answer why is because they don't want you to accidentally draw your taser or draw your pistol thinking it's your taser because it's within the same draw stroke. So they tell you to put it on the opposite side of your belt or belt buckle is usually kind of like the policy. That's their way of mitigating. We told you so. So, unfortunately, that's to get around like training and competency. Then he says, why do we see keep shooting one-handed with their pistol? A lot of times they are manipulating their radio with their other hand because they don't have a lapel mic. So they literally grab the brick and they're like this, and then they're like this, and then they're setting themselves up for failure, which is why your agency should mandate that you have some other device to communicate other than the actual radio itself. And if you are in a shooting and you shoot one-handed, you should get like 3 days off because you're not following policy. That's my opinion on that. Like, if you want to immediately increase officers' accountability or likelihood that they'll hit, like, create a policy that says that. And not even like, I guess you have to kind of enforce it because cops still won't care, and then they'll get in a shooting and be like, oh man, that sucks. I got 3 days off. There was a shooting not that long ago that I found where a cop, they're on a line, like back alley, suspects advancing on them with something. I don't know if it's a knife. I think it's a knife. I don't know why. I presume because the cop was reaching up, well, not even reaching up, probably reaching for his radio. Now, people ask me, well, let me finish the story, but basically, everyone's like, stop moving, stop coming at us, stop. And everybody shoots basically, and the guy that has one hand shoots, 3 or 4 times, and you can literally see his rounds impacting low and to the left. in the cement. It's just silly stuff, right? That's why I have I can't show you because I'm banned off this thing, but I have a pressure pad on my pistol because I cannot reach my actuator on my light by just simply moving my thumb down. I'm like pretty short of actually doing it. So in order for me to hit it, I would have to compromise my grip. Basically kind of hold one hand at this off thing. So that's why I use a pressure pad so I can keep both hands where they're supposed to be. But people ask me like, well, what's the difference between a lapel mic and a whisper mic? This is like, okay, man, this is like some psychological stuff, okay? When you have your radio in your physical hand, the entire radio, your radio is an important piece of equipment. And some would argue it's the most important piece of equipment. You will not see, other than like they fell down or, even times they're being shot at, like, other than them inadvertently dropping their radio, you're not going to see a cop holding his radio in one hand and then, lethal threat, drop my radio, grip my hand with two hands. Because we know instinctually that we need that thing. It's important to us. And we're not just going to let it go on the ground, which is what you should actually do probably, right? If the threat is here right now, what's more important, stopping the threat or dropping my radio? But we won't do that. Why would we, if we had a lapel mic or a whisper mic, go from here, potentially, with my hand on my lapel mic, and I'm like talking on the radio, and then go to here? Well, because there's no repercussions for releasing my hand off of my lapel mic. There is only an upside to me doing that. There is no downside. And so just your brain knows that, like, if I release my hand, I will not lose anything from doing that. More so than you actually know you will gain something from doing that. That makes sense. That's pretty much all of them. Do Hope asked something, or he talked about individual CQB stuff, but I think we kind of talked about it in the chat there. Let's see. Kill a lion even past 3 yards the same way you kill. I think that you can kill a lion at even past 3 yards the same way you can kill it at 100. Or I don't think that you can kill a lion at even past 3 yards the same way. I'm not sure what you're getting at. Gunfighting, it's crazy how a gunfight will still be going and half the cops are using one of their shooting support hands to scream shots fired into their mic. Yeah. I mean, that's a training thing too. So like, you have an emergency button, you should know where it is, you should know how to hit it, and you should understand that when you do, you get 10 seconds or whatever it might be for your agency or radio to say whatever you want for them to hear what's going on without you even having to tell them shots are being fired. They're going to know shots are being fired because they're going to hear it. And if you can't say who you are and where you're at, they will probably, within several seconds figure out who it is because other people know your voice, other people know what call you're on, and there'll be cops going there fast. So like that's just not having a process. I've hit my emergency button a lot in the earlier years of my career, drop an assist, because I was fighting with somebody by myself. I say I never, that's not true. But like, if it was a real like fight where it's like, it's just me and this guy, and it's like, it's on, I'd immediately hit my emergency button. I'd just fight the guy. And, and that's just like handling people. That's not actually shooting. So like, there's that. Shoot, move, and communicate. Gabe Suarez podcast years ago was excellent on this. 99% of the time, dispatch and cover cars know where you are and what's up, especially you flirt with dispatchers. Ooh. All right, I'm going to jump off here, record a couple videos for something, and call it a night, guys. thanks for coming again, hanging out. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching the videos, all that stuff. Look, if you're busy tomorrow or you're ever busy and you're like, I don't want to watch this video, that's too long. It's like, just set the video, play it, and just like go mow the lawn or something. Come back later, it'll be done. But I do appreciate it. Appreciate the support. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but we grew like 58,000 subscribers in 40 days or something like that. So it's cool. It's good, but it's gotta, we're not there yet. So keep working at it. Keep showing up. I'll keep showing up. You guys keep showing up. And we'll keep moving forward. And we will make things better. We'll get your questions answered. I'll make it worth your time if you don't feel like it already is. And especially next year, starting to see some things maybe happening with some other stuff. Try to make you guys aware in a certain way and get you guys all up to speed, but hopefully transitioning from my job to this, but also something else that I think will probably do better on the channel side of things because it's appealing to everybody and important for everybody. So, appreciate you guys. See you on the next one. Videos dropping tomorrow at probably 9, something like that. So, later, guys.